Hi, I'm Andy Bursky. I'm managing partner and co-founder of Atlas Holdings. We're a $6.5 billion industrial holding company that operates in part as a private equity firm.
And I'm Lior, co-founder and managing partners of Eclipse. We are $1.2 billion venture firms out of the Bay Area investing in industrial technologies.
So Lior, let me start on you, my friend. So it's been an interesting mix here at Index. We've got a number of private equity firms and the businesses that they own, which are typically mid-market industrial companies. And then we've got some folks from your world, disruptors, where change is the ordinary course, where fear is sort of left to the side. And I think one of the interesting challenges is how do you motivate people who are inherently conservative, who really haven't been disrupted? We know it's coming, but really haven't been disrupted. How do you get them to act in like digital transformation and to take on a different kind of posture in light of this coming tidal wave of technology?
So besides by replacing their shoes to something that, it's more like a Silicon Valley type, I actually think, to be honest, I believe humanity is moved only by fear. And do I think GM was caring about this little automaker company called Tesla when they start? I'm sure that was a lot of jokes on the boardroom. Do I think Boeing was making jokes on like a little space company out of LA called SpaceX? I'm sure it was tons of jokes in the boardroom. Do I think DHL was like Amazon? What do you know in logistics? So I actually think the history is full of examples of how fear is driving to people to go out of the comfort zone. Because when you're thinking about it, you care about this mid-market company, you have a great steel business, and you're doing $300 million in top line and 70 EBITDA, and you're just a happy person. And you hear this noise of like automation and computer vision, additive manufacturing, and connect your machine to the internet, and analytics and machine learning, and you're going to allocate 3 people at best. When the reality is, I think, because of the speed of disruption, is you need to shift the company to be like a technology first, and whatever industry sector that you are at second. But I would say, by large, the main thing is fear.
Yeah, I happen to think you're right, and that's sort of an interesting conundrum in a world mid-market industrials, whereas I say technology is upon us, but not really creating dramatic change yet.
Yeah.
The cyber threat is real, and people are responding to that out of fear.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think we're trying to do at Index is to create awareness. But how do you take it to the next step? How do you create sufficient fear to get people to act?
Yeah, I think actually awareness helping to mitigate fear, right? Actually, if you provide people more information in a way that they will be able to do something with this data, so it's not like in other Gartner reports that are showing up in their index, in their inbox. It's like it's people from the industry that's speaking the same language and kind of melting together with people from my world. I think the awareness of like we needs to change. I have a great example. There's this company, tiny company called Wayfair. You probably didn't really heard about them. It's an e-commerce company to buy furniture. It's a $15 billion.
Wayfair, it's Wayfair.
It's a $15 billion market cap company, and I bet you there's so many mid-market furniture companies that never thought about selling a furniture over the internet. And I think it's kind of becoming like a table stakes. And I think what we are going to see, like in the history, you will have a whole section that will wiped because they will not be able to do the change. You have a section that will fumble, so they will survive, but their business is going to be hurt. And you have a section of people that will be able to do the leapfrog and eat much more market share than they had before. I'm very bullish on how you guys at Atlas thinking about it, because you guys are thinking about it in a way, and this is, I think, where our relationship was built up on how we actually not ignoring that, how we are making sure that it's part of our strategy.
Right. Right. Yeah. Look, I think as I think about Index and its purpose, to create awareness, to bring these separate universes together, I've heard some interesting things over the course of the last couple of days where there's a dawning awareness that we're at a point now where I have a chance to either be prey or predator, and it's interesting to see that the beginning of a realization that now is the time. I can act. Hopefully, we can create some recognition of what that means to transform old line companies in a fashion that can allow them to survive in the future.
I remember the meeting in your office probably a year ago.
Yeah.
That we had the idea with John and his team, and here we go. We are in the conference, and actually, I think think about the speed of in 12 months ago, thinking about the idea of bringing the industrial market with the technology markets to gel together. I think the speed as we help John bringing these events to be real. This is the table stake speed of doing business in the new world. You either can move fast and be aggressive, or you're just not going to exist. And I think the old world, just looking on the history, you will not disappear. Your business might decline, your margin will much hurt, but you will not disappear. Companies are disappearing. Companies that used to be giant are disappearing in a matter of no time. And I think the best graph to look is the average time of a Fortune 500 to stay Fortune 500 that currently stand on 12 years.
Yeah, and declining.
Yeah. The graph look like that.
Yeah,
and this is where, to be honest, I'm waking up every morning and I'm I have one word: opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we were cut from the same cloth, a few years separated, but I think it is fascinating to think about what opportunities exist for old line companies to adopt new technologies, new practices, new pace, new culture. I also think there's a benefit for some of the tech companies that are here who are trying to sort out, okay, I've got something that can be impactful. How do I better understand my customer? And I think I've witnessed conversations between some of my companies that are here and some of the digital transformation specialists, where there's not only a dawn of recognition on the part of our industrial manufacturing CEOs, but there's a dawn of recognition on the part of some of these tech providers to say, you know what, I've been selling this all wrong. That's not going to connect, but maybe this does.
And this, I think, the beauty, this is the magic, and maybe this is also the promise of our relationship of we call it internally at Eclipse, if you can put tech next to scale, the sky is the limit. This is the magic. This is the future. We have some of our own companies here that doing amazing on the tech side. You have amazing company in your portfolio doing great on the scale side. This connected issue, the companies that will be able to nail that will build an Amazon like a company, like $1 trillion market cap company, because it's hard.
Yeah.
And you know why it's hard, Andy? Is because the technology wars in the last 3 decades was on the internet, inside a computer. Right. There is only bits that are moving there.
Right.
And now we are talking about atoms.
Yeah.
Because we're taking the software into the industrial world, and this integration to people, to machines, to boxes, to warehouses is just in order of magnitude more complicated.
Yeah, spot on. And I think that as I look at Eclipse, I don't want to hurt you too much by pounding you on the back, but I think you have focused on an area that is badly underinvested in because it's so hard. I think the opportunity set is massive. This combination, as you say, of scale, of atoms and people and technology. They're more complex problems in many ways. You can sort out the algorithms. You can find the freshly minted engineers and PhDs. But combining that with an ability to sell into existing markets, with an ability to compete against existing players, it's a much bigger challenge.
Despite what Silicon Valley think, you still need a good set of a suit and skills in golf in order to sell anything into the oil and gas market. And you need an old school sales process, and it needs to be relationship based. And that person do not care if you're selling him new pipes or you're selling him machine learning to do a better drilling when he's looking on offshore drilling. It's the same thing. And I think we're in Silicon Valley have a lot of hard time when it was just an internet. It's like a closed loop. Everyone in the valley is doing the internet, so you can pop your head and talk with another guy. when you're talking about industrial, this is non-Silicon Valley play.
Yeah.
And I think the bridge, this is where we think there is a smoke, so probably there's a fire there. So we're going after that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm curious, Andy, you've been in this business much longer than me, and kind of seeing the ups and downs on the public equities, seeing the economy growing very, very fast in the last 12 years. When you're thinking about the next industrial revolution, and a lot of the things we are talking here about index of technology and industrial coming together, what is your kind of vision of what is this new industrial going to look like? And it's going to be a game, or are we going to see new Siemens or new GEs popping up? Or you think a lot of those really big companies will be able to invent themselves?
I think there's lots of examples, if you look back over rapid periods of industrialization, industrial development, where the penalty of being large in terms of an ability to move an organization to a different place, the almost inhuman characteristics that's required of eating your young if you want to be able to progress. It makes it very difficult, I think, for great large companies to remain great large companies. I also think technology becomes a great leveler.
Yeah.
And you look at the incredible progress that some of the great new companies of the current era have made in a very short period of time. It's been disruption, and it's been leveraging technology to offer something better to a business consumer or a consumer. But at the end of the day, it's that technology that has enabled that acceleration in the passing lane. And I think that technology becomes pretty ubiquitous. Mm-hmm. And so my view is that, who knows what the future holds, mm-hmm. but it's hard not to be excited about it. It's hard not to believe that we will see in years ahead, just as we've seen over the last 10 or 12 years, great new businesses created based upon the kind of insights that Eclipse and others are bringing and providing capital to great entrepreneurs who have great ideas of how the world ought to look different. And I think it's a reason to be optimistic. There's lots of reasons to be pessimistic about all of the other things that are happening in today's world. But I think ultimately, this ability to create more products at lower cost, to more precisely target a consumer's real interests, to provide them with better and different services, these are all great things for the future, and it creates greater demand, and it creates an economy that gets larger, and everyone benefits from it. We can have a separate discussion about whether there is sufficient equity and who's benefiting, and those are true and serious problems, well above my pay grade. But fundamentally, the thing that I think we're both focused on is creating businesses that drive an economy, that create more value for consumers and ultimately more value for labor and investors, and that's good for all of us.
We have our yearly annual meeting coming up later this year, and the sentence for this time around is moving GDPs, and we're talking a lot internally. It's really interesting to see people getting caught, from my world, of this. It's technology, and it's technology, and it's technology. And I was like, yeah, technology is the enabler of something, right? Are you building more parts? Are you doing that more precise? They can drive more flexibility. That's not the what, this is the how. In the end of the day, I think finally we see now an opportunity for technology to actually do push GDPs in construction, and in oil and gas, and in manufacturing, and supply chain, logistics, and areas that I felt was kind of out of the game for a long time. Previously was the third industrial revolution. And now it's fun because it's a playground. And we see just the top-notch talent leaving a lot of those big companies. We just backed the team from Amazon that did something for Amazon for a long time, and now living to build our own new version of that. So super excited to partner with you and Index to go move some GDPs.
Great, sounds great.
Thank you so much.